Good morning. Good morning, everyone. How are you all this morning? Good to see you. Good to see you. Welcome. Sorry, I'm just a couple minutes late. Try to be on time. I hope everyone is well on this Monday morning. I hope you all had a wonderful weekend. Get this going. All right. Good morning, Burns. How are you? Good morning. Good to see you. You see, you were busy this weekend as always. As always. Well, this morning we are talking about understanding how to communicate to where we can develop some understanding. Yeah, so welcome all of you who just came in. Women in red. I don't know. What do you say about women in red? It was a red kind of morning. Yes, I have a hair appointment this morning, so I had to stuff it all up under this little cap and try to get going. Hi, Harrison. How are you this morning? Good to see you. Good to see you. Welcome. Welcome, everyone who's coming in, driving, one eye open, snoozing a little bit, has me turned on. I appreciate each and every one of you. Thank you for being here. Yes, we had a good weekend. It was a good weekend. I hope everyone was safe this weekend and, didn't have any problems. Good morning. It's all hot air. How are you, Missy? Good to see you. Good to see you. What you doing up so early this morning? Good to see you all. Thank you all for being here. I appreciate you. I appreciate you. That was quite an interesting talk y'all had last night on the Battle of the Sexes. I couldn't chat, but I was definitely listening. I was definitely listening. Give just a couple seconds. Good morning, Levi Boyd. Did I say that right? I think I've been calling you Levy Boyd every morning, and I think it's Levi. Is it Levi? Am I saying that correctly now? Please forgive me if I have been pronouncing your name wrong. So good to see you all. Welcome in. Welcome in. I appreciate each and every one of you being here. Yes, it's Levi. Okay, great. I don't even know why it didn't dawn on me that I was pronouncing that incorrectly. So please forgive me. Please forgive me. All right, good deal. All right, so how many times have we had conversation talking to someone and we thought that we had clear understanding, that we were speaking clearly, that we were very direct in what we needed to say, that there should be no problems in the person receiving what it is that we're talking about, right? Until later, we realized that they did not. They did not have clear understanding. Either they didn't do what we talked about, they did something totally different, or they didn't do anything at all. They didn't do anything at all because they didn't have clear understanding. So that's what we're going to talk about. So whose responsibility is that, right? Is it our responsibility, or is it the responsibility of the receiver because they just weren't listening, or because they weren't paying attention, or they weren't focused on what we were saying, right? Whose fault is it? Well, as much as we would like to think that it is the listener's fault, it's actually the talker's, the person who's talking, responsibility to make sure that we're communicating clearly and that the person who we're talking to is receiving understanding what we're trying to say. So how do we do that? How do we do that, right? As much as we may wish that the other person should just pay attention because we speak clearly, we're speaking, correctly, they just don't always receive it in a way that they can understand it. And so I want to talk about some things that we can, share this morning as to what we can do to make sure that people have clear understanding. So the first thing we want to do, obviously, number one, is to make sure that we're speaking their language, right? Obviously, if there's any sort of language barrier, we want to make sure that we get like either an interpreter, or now they have these, all kinds of translator apps and, anything else, or we can bring in a third party if we need to make sure that they can translate, that we're speaking their language. Ask the person, am I speaking your native language? If it's somebody that you don't know that well, ask, is this your native language? Because if it's not, then you automatically know maybe they do understand the language, but not so clearly. So we may need to change our tone. We may need to change our volume. We may need to change, how quickly we're speaking because they can't catch all the words. Or if there's a hearing problem, which a lot of times when you're speaking to older people or just even young people who may have a hearing aid or something like that, then we also need to make sure that they can hear us, that we may need to speak louder, or we may need to get closer. We may need to pronounce with our words, enunciate our words a little more clearly so that they can understand, or speak a little slower also. Those are things that are important to do. And then ask the person, do you understand what I'm saying? Do I need to repeat it? Would you like for me to repeat what I've said? Because a lot of times people won't tell you if they're slightly embarrassed that they have a hearing problem. They won't tell you. And so they'll be like, like they'll act like they understand when maybe they don't. And so you can say, well, I can repeat it for you if you like. And then a lot of times they'll go ahead and say, yes, would you repeat it for me, please? So don't be afraid or ashamed to ask people if it's okay for us to repeat it. Good morning, Apostle. How are you? Blessings to you. Blessings to you. Welcome in. Welcome in. Good to see you. Good to see you here this morning. All right. And then also we want to be careful. We want to speak their language, but also you want to be careful if you are, like when we're speaking with teenagers or young adults or kids even, it's also good to pick up some of their lingo, right? Some of those popular terms that they like to say sometimes, because, a lot of times they find that interesting that something that they use in their culture or in their terms. And so you can definitely, it's good to pick some of that stuff up when you're trying to communicate with kids that are younger or young adults, and they can really relate to you. And then also, if you're speaking with someone from other cultures, then also if you can pick up some of their words, pick up some of their, language, the way they speak, you can incorporate that as well. But be very careful if you're going down that cultural road, because if you're not confident in what you're saying, or if you're not sure, if you use it incorrectly, you can very easily and quickly offend somebody. So, be careful that if you're going to, pick up some cultural languages or some cultural words, some terminology, make sure that you're using it correctly. Okay. So, but that's another good way to incorporate understanding, to make sure that people are understanding us in the way that they can receive it. The next thing we want to try to do is give one message at a time, right? One of the first things we do, and especially if you're a fast talker, is we give too much information all at once. We have so many things that we want to tell a person. And this probably even happens more for women than it does for men, right? Because women tend to speak 10 times faster than men, or twice as fast as men. I won't say 10 times faster, but we tend to speak twice as fast as men. So we want to make sure that we speak slowly, that we're given one message at a time. We can overwhelm people quickly and easily with all the things that we have to say, because it's so important. We want them to get it all. But the bottom line is people are only going to remember like 2 to 3 things that we say at a time. So if you like when I'm speaking, I try not to give more than 5 points, because if you remember 2 or 3 of them, maybe even one of them, then I'm happy, right? So but if I give you 10, if I give you 10 things to try to, remember and incorporate into your life, you're going to be like, oh my gosh, really, that is just too much. That's too much. So Apostle says, what it is as good as 10 times. Hard to keep up. Yes, it can be. Yes. And we can quickly give you 10 things to remember or to talk about. So yes, try to limit what you're saying. If you do have a lot of things that you need to say or talk to a person about, try to space it out. Over a period of the day or over a period of a week or even longer, depending on what it is, especially if you're talking to someone about things that are like call to action stuff. Like we need to do this. I need you to do that. We need to get this done. This is something I want to talk about. We need to discuss this issue. When it's too much, you're going to get people to shut down, and then barriers are going to be raised, and you're going to lose people. You're just going to lose people. So try to pick 2 or 3 really important things that you want to get across, or 5 at the most. And then if they take in 2 or 3, then you're good. You're golden. Put 2 or 3 of the most important things in there, or just, pick 1 or 2 things that are important to you that you want to discuss with the person, so that you don't overwhelm them with all the information that you have to give them. The third thing we want to do is speak honestly. Make sure we're being honest about what it is that we need to say. We get in trouble quickly when we are beating around the bush with the stuff that needs to be said. Now, a lot of us are very direct people. I don't have any issues telling people what I need them to say. Sometimes I have to figure out how I'm going to say it in love, right? Sometimes I have to adjust my words to make sure that I'm delivering it in love. But other than that, I pretty much know what it is what I'm trying to get across. But if you don't know and you're trying to figure it out, don't take it to the person until you figure out, well, okay, what is it that I really want to get across to this person? Okay. Good morning, Gigi Baker. How are you this morning? Welcome in. Welcome in. Yes. So, make sure that we're being honest, make sure that we're being direct, be as concise as you can. If you know that you're a big talker, if you know that you tend to use a lot of words, if you know that you can overwhelm people. Good morning, as told by Tina. How are you? Good to see you. Good to see you. Wonderful blessings to you as well. Good morning. So speak honest, and if you know that if it's going to be a difficult conversation, let people know up front. I have something I need to discuss with you that's really important, or that's something that's difficult for me to say, or it's going to be difficult for me to try to find the words, so that they understand that they'll put on a different sort of pair of listening ears. Because when people if I'm just talking to you in conversation, I may be listening to you, but some things can go in and out. But if I know that you really this is important to you, or that this is something that's going to be difficult to you, I put on a different set of listening ears. Like, I'm like, oh, okay, let me really tune in to what they're trying to tell me, because I may need to help them, right? I may need to help them, help me understand what it is they're trying to say to me. And then when you're talking to the person, say, this is going to be difficult for me, and I have a lot to say to you, or a lot to express. And so if there's anything that I'm saying that you're not understanding, or if I'm talking too quickly, let me know so I can slow down, so that I can repeat what I need to say, or give more clarification for what it is that I need to express to you, because this is really important to me that I want to say to you. Or I know this is going to be difficult for me to say, or difficult for you to receive. It may be difficult for you to receive. So I really want to make sure that you have good understanding for what it is that I'm trying to say. The next thing you want to do is make sure you use all the resources available to you to try to express what you need to say. We have so many resources available to us now that there's no reason for us not to figure out ways to communicate with a person. We have so many electronic ways, right? We have Googles of platforms to communicate with people. And then we also have different things that we can use. If you can't say it through words, if you are a better writer, write it down. If you enjoy music, pick a song that touches you, that means something to you, that says what you need it to say, and use the song. Find a poem or a story. A lot of times I like to use, excuse me, I forgot my water this morning, so forgive me if my throat goes out, my voice goes out this morning. Write a letter, use a poem, find some sort of internet clip that you can, pull out on the radio, or anything on the internet that you can pull in to say what you need to say. Then do that. And then if you need to bring in a third party, someone who can interpret for you, maybe, especially if you know that you all are two somewhat hot-headed people, or it could go quick, it could go left really quickly. If you don't have someone there as like what I like to call a referee, because sometimes we need a referee, and this could be a coach, it could be an educator, or it could be a pastor or a preacher, someone, or just a good friend, someone that you trust, someone who knows you or the other person very well, so that they can sort of help interpret for you the conversation, what you're trying to say. Because a lot of times when we don't know how to talk to someone, and we've attempted multiple times and it always turns into a big battle, then it can be an issue, and you can miss what needs to be said. And if you're trying to heal a relationship, if you're trying to work on a relationship, if you're trying to improve it, and get back together in the relationship, whatever it is you're trying to do, get to a space where you can work together, or just reside in the same space together, then you want to bring in a third party if you need to. So don't be afraid to do that. And then the last one is speak in details. Give as many details as you can when you're trying to communicate with a person. And like I said, typically for women, this is a lot easier. But if you can't give enough detail, then try to use examples. Try to use examples of something that you can explain to them. And that makes things very much easier for people to understand. Like, I'm a very visual learner. For instance, I'm very visual. So a lot of times when I talk and when I teach, I like to give people pictures and I like to create images with my words because that's more powerful for me. I learned that way. And so I just like to assume that there's a lot of other people out there who like to learn that way as well. So when I speak, I like to give a lot of images. Like I say, I'm a visionary. And so if I can see it, then it becomes clear to me and I have a greater level of understanding. And so it's always good, whatever you use, as many of the five senses that you can in your language to help people understand, right? That seeing, that smelling, that hearing, that tasting, and the touch. Anything, any of those resources, any of those senses that you can tap into when you're trying to communicate with a person will only help to increase understanding. So the more I can, touch on those senses, the more people will have a greater understanding. Like when I hear a story, 9 times out of 10, I'm going to understand it much better than if someone is just sometimes just telling me something. Even Jesus, he spoke like in parables. He spoke in parables because he was able to create the images. He used those images to help create understanding for people, a different level of understanding. So whatever you can use to help communicate more understanding is what we want to try to do. So let me give you just a couple examples. So let's say I'm talking to someone and I can tell them that I don't like the way you approach me. I don't care for how you approach me in communication. That may mean something to you or it may not. You may attempt to try to do something different or you may not. And what the different thing that you attempt to do for me may work and it may not. But here's another way that I can say, I don't like other than saying, I don't like how you talk to me, right? That's one way of saying it. But if I say, when you approach me, you make me feel like a kid who's got their hand caught in the cookie jar. I don't know what to expect. I don't know how to respond. I don't know how you're going to react. You make me, maybe you make me nervous or fearful or, or nervous, right? You put me on edge. Your voice, your tone, your aggression, your volume, right? These are all things. Now I'm giving them more examples of how it is they make me feel when they're approaching me in communication. So now they have a very clear image and a very clear picture of what I mean when I say to them that I don't care for the way you speak to me, right? So now they understand, oh, okay, well, maybe I can work on my tone. Maybe I can work on my volume. Maybe I can work on my aggressiveness, the way I, project my words or something. So now they have something very specific they can work on, a very clear image to say, oh, okay, now I understand, because they remember what it was like being a little kid doing something that they weren't supposed to do and how fearful that was. So we also gave them a visual image in that way. So you see, I said the very same thing, but in 2 different ways. Good morning, Positive. How are you this morning? Good to see you. And good morning, Sheila's vlog. Oh, thank you. I'm glad. Thank you. This was it wasn't necessarily intentional, all this red this morning. I knew I needed to put on a hat. I have a hair appointment this morning and it was red. So I said, well, let me throw on a red shirt. So here we go in the red. So I appreciate all the compliments this morning. I guess I need to wear a little more red. I don't know. It's definitely a power color. So we'll see. All right. So here's another one. Right? I'll give you one more example. I can tell someone that we can be having a conversation and I want to express to them that you don't pay any attention. You don't pay any attention to me. And they can say, Okay, I do pay attention to you, but okay, I don't know what more you want me to do. So that's one way of saying, good morning, Rosemary. Ephedibor, is that right? Did I say Ephedibor? Ephedibor, did I say that correctly? I don't like messing up people's names, but welcome in. Good to see you. Good to see you. Thumbs up. Okay, yes, thank you. Please, I appreciate you all thumbsing me up. If you are not a part of this talk family, please hit that. Oh, good. I said it correctly. I'm good. I'm glad. I like when I get the names right. Yes, please become a part of this talk family. If you're not a part of the talk family, we do everything here about communicating and improving our relationships, personal relationships, your work relationships, family, children, all of that. This week, we're actually going to be focusing on the family. It's focusing on the family this week. So my Tuesday tip and my Thursday lessons are going to be about focusing on children, specifically actually with children. And then I have a special guest coming on for my Saturday night panel. So I'll be announcing that also. Who'll be coming on this Saturday. So I'm excited about that. So here's another one. If I say to the person, you're not paying enough attention to me. You don't pay attention to me. That's one way of telling. That's one way of saying something. But I can also say, when I'm speaking to you, you seem distracted. You're in your phone, you're watching the television, or you're, messing with the kids or doing something. You make no eye contact. You don't respond to anything that I'm saying to you. You don't, nod your head. You don't show me that in any way, give me any sort of physical cues that you're listening to what I'm saying. So I don't know. It feels like you're not paying me any attention. If I ask you to repeat what I've said, you don't know what I've said. You can't repeat it, or you change the subject, or you walk out. Right. So now we're giving people specific things that they're doing that's making us feel like they're not understanding. Two very different things. I've said the same thing, but I've given them two different ways. I've given two different ways for them to take it in so that they can process it and have a better picture of what I mean when I say that you don't pay me any attention. Right. So we have to be willing to be more specific when we're talking to a person, especially if it's something that is a call to action. If it is something that we want them to do, that we would like for them to address, or if find out if they're willing to make any change towards it. Let me look and see. I will have love to stay, but I can't because I'm still at work. Hope soon. Okay, good. I'll hope to chat with you again soon. Welcome. I appreciate you being here and popping in, and I hope to see you again. I hope to see you again. So have a wonderful day. Have a wonderful day. For those of you all who can't stay, I realize I appreciate y'all being here. I usually am on for about 30 minutes in the mornings at 5 a.m. on Monday, Wednesday, and Friday. And then on Tuesday and Thursday, I put out pre-recorded lessons. And then I do a live session on Saturday nights at 8:30. All right. So I try to give you all something 6 days a week, and then I rest on Sunday. All right. Bye, Apostle. You take care. I appreciate you being here. So again, I've given them two different ways to say something. So I've given you two different examples of how we can just say something to a person, right? I can say one message, or I can give a little more detail to give them more insight on what it is that I'm actually feeling, or what it is that I actually want to express. And so that's our responsibility as we're communicating, is to increase the level of understanding. So we say as many things as we can without overwhelming the person, right? I was very specific. I didn't beat around the bush. Oh, you're still here. Okay. I was very specific. I didn't beat around the bush. And I was very clear and concise with what it is that I needed to say to help them understand. And then if you don't know, ask them, did you understand what I said? Does that make sense to you? Is there anything that you don't understand? And if they don't want to, or can you ask them if they can repeat it if you want to, but if they take offense to that, because some people too, I don't need to repeat what you said. I heard you, right? Try to get creative with the question. Is there anything that you had a question about with what I said? Or you can say, if it was a call to action, is there something that you want to work towards first? Which one of these items that I've presented would you like to work towards first? Is there anything that I said that's going to be difficult for you? Is it going to be difficult for us to address, or difficult for us to talk about? Right. So I've asked the same question, but I've asked it a little differently so that I can get a little more information out of the person versus saying, can you repeat it? Did you hear me? Right. Because that can be people can take offense to that when we say that. So try to get creative with the questioning if you want to try to find out if they've really understood without saying, can you repeat it? Kind of talking to them like a child in a sense. So yes, if there is a call to action, is there something, which one of these would you like for us to work on first? Is there something that you want to address first? Is there anything that you will have a difficult time with or that you want to express further? So different ways that you can ask the same question and possibly get a different response so that people are not offended. Okay. So speak in their language. Try not to give too many messages. Be straightforward and concise and honest. Okay. Give multiple resources. Use as many resources as you can, and use as much detail and give as much example as you can. Okay. So those are the 5 tips that I have for you this morning to increase our level of understanding so that everyone can hear and receive. Right. So that's pretty much the lesson this morning. Hopefully you can remember at least 1 or 2 that you can work on that you will try to be more impactful with in your communicating. And so that way people can increase their level of understanding and you can improve your relationships. Okay. All right, prayer for us, and then we're going to head out for the day. And I will be back here on Wednesday. The letter for Wednesday is V. And I believe it's going to be validating, which is one of my favorite things to do to improve my relationships. So validating. So that's what we'll be talking about on Wednesday. Okay. So I'll say a quick prayer and then we'll head out. Father, thank you for this day. We thank you for your love, your grace, and your mercy, the blessings that you bestow upon us each and every day that we do not deserve, yet through your grace, you continue to give us new opportunity to lay new blessings upon our lives. Father, I appreciate each and every person who's come into the live this morning, touch their lives as they've come here, shown up to be educated and learn how to increase their level of understanding when they are communicating. Father, help them to be patient, to be understanding, to be willing to do what they need to do, say what they need to say, gather the words, open their minds and their hearts and their ears and their willingness to be able to incorporate the things that they need to incorporate to increase others' understanding. Let us not be impatient, Father. Let us not be short-tempered with others because they're not receiving things the way we want to give it. Help us to be in a mind state to increase understanding so that people know that our intentions are good, that we are working to improve relationships and increase understanding for the good of all. We thank you, Father, for who you are. Touch each and every person in this live stream, for those who'll be watching the replay, and for those who are popping in and out. I appreciate them being here, Father. Just touch their lives, bless them, increase their words, increase their willingness and their ability to communicate in ways that will enable others to understand greatly. We love you. We thank you. These things I ask in your son, Jesus' name. Amen. All right. I appreciate you all. Thank you. Please thumbs up if you haven't, thumbs up the live, and also subscribe and become a part of this family. And I will see you all. You have a wonderful day, a wonderful week. And I'll see you out and about in these YouTube streets. Okay. You all take care. Bye-bye.